In Unit 2, opener number 7, we're going to go ahead and fill in these 3 blanks and explore a property that you've always known was true for years, but now we'll formalize it and put a name to it. The first blank says blank times 6 equals 0. Well, ever since we learned our multiplication tables, we've learned that there's nothing that you could possibly multiply by a number and get 0 as your solution unless you're multiplying by 0. So the only possible value that I could put in that blank is 0. 0 times 6 equals 0. For part B, we have negative 1 million times blank equals 0. Same property holds true. Even though this time we're dealing with a negative number, there's still only one possible value I could multiply that number by and get a result of 0, and that is 0. And finally, in part C, I have negative 1 million times blank times positive 1 billion equals 0. And again, the only thing that I could possibly multiply those two numbers by if I want a result of 0 is 0. What you've just seen demonstrated here is called the zero product property, which simply means that any time that you multiply a number by 0, you get 0. It also means that if you're multiplying something and the result is 0, one of those terms that you multiplied by must have equaled 0, at least one of those terms. So let's use the zero product property to help us solve an equation in number 2. This equation looks different than other equations that you've seen before because it's not a linear equation. If we were to multiply all 3 of these together, all 3 of these factors together, we'd actually end up with an x cubed. So what we have is a cubic equation. And you'll learn later in math that there's lots of different strategies for solving cubic equations. But since this one's already nice and factored for us, what we need to use is this property that we just learned, the zero product property. I have 3 factors that I'm multiplying together to get a result of 0. Well, I know that if I want to get a result of 0, at least one of those factors must equal 0. So that's what I can use to solve this equation. I'm going to take my first factor, x, and say, what would x have to equal if x were 0? Well, that's already solved for us. X equals 0. If I substitute 0 back in, I get 0 times 0 minus 4, which is negative 4, times 0 plus 2, which is 2, and 0 times negative 4 times 2 does in fact equal 0. So 0 works as one possible value for x. We're not going to get one solution to this equation like we do when we solve linear equations. We're actually going to get 3 different solutions for x. So let's take a look at our second factor now, x minus 4. What about if x minus 4 equals 0? Well, let's solve this quick equation using inverse operations. I see that I'm subtracting 4, so I need to do the inverse operation of subtraction, which is addition, and add 4 to both sides of my equation. I get x equals 4. So let's go ahead and substitute that back in and make sure that that also satisfies our equation. When I substitute 4 in for x, I get 4 times 4 minus 4, which is 0, times 4 plus 2, which is 6, and 4 times 0 times 6 does, in fact, equal 0. So 4 is also a possible value for x. Finally, let's do the same thing and set that last factor, x plus 2 equals 0. Since I'm adding 2 to x, I need to do the inverse operation of addition, which is subtraction, and subtract 2 from both sides of my equation. What I'm left with is x equals negative 2. So let's substitute negative 2 back into our equation and make sure that that holds true as well. So I have negative 2 times negative 2 minus 4, which is negative 6, times negative 2 plus 2, which is 0, and negative 2 times negative 6 times 0 does, in fact, give me 0. So this equation has 3 solutions. X can equal 0, x can equal 4, and x can equal negative 2. So this is a great example of using the zero product property. Remember that anything times 0 equals 0, and you can use that to solve a variety of different equations.